Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry, and in today's episode that I recorded with my husband Eric, we are offering perspectives and principles that will hopefully give you a boost and encourage you to invest in yourself. Now, listening to this podcast is one way you're already investing in yourself, so congratulations, you're off to a great start. But it's so easy for our time and energy to get depleted by reactionary activities, interruptions or emergencies or unexpected opportunities. Or sometimes our time and energy get sucked away by diversions like TV or social media or just random time wasting. But when we learn to invest consistent, substantial time and energy into the things that matter most, our lives transform. And that is what we are hoping we could share with you today. Inspiration to help your life transform. This podcast is part of a 5-part Arise series that we've been talking about recently at LearnDoBecome as we're preparing to launch our new Arise membership. Now, Arise stands for Anchor, Replenish, Invest, Structure, Expand. More details are coming soon, so make sure you're connected to us at LearnDoBecome. But I'll just give you a little brief history on what's been going on. So podcasts A and R were actually published back in 2019. We'll include the links on our show notes page. But then we took a break because, to be honest, there was just a lot going on in our lives. And we decided that it didn't make sense to try to help other people arise if we were personally feeling overwhelmed. But now we have strengthened our foundation with new team members, solutions to some health challenges I was having, better overall systems in place. Plus our children are 2 years older now. That's changed. So that's exciting. And now we're excited about Arise. It's coming together. I've been brainstorming this literally for years. I think my first notes on this were like 5-6 years ago. So I'm so happy to be here now. So enjoy the podcast. Then check out our show notes page or listen to the announcements at the end for more about the Arise program if you want to be one of our early arisers. We like that. Also at LearnDoBecome.com/connect, we have links to all the ways that you can link up with us. So you can subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel, make sure you get our weekly email, be with us on social, join our free Facebook group. All the links are there. So LearnDoBecome.com/connect. That'll take you to our page and you can see everything from that point. Okay, enjoy the podcast. All right, so Eric and I are going to talk now about investing in ourselves.
Hey there, everybody. We're so excited that you're an investor.
So in the Arise acronym, the I standing for invest, hopefully will inspire all of us to be able to put some effort into the things that we really want in our lives. And there's a variety of ways to invest, and we're not necessarily talking about investing in stocks and things like that right now, but that's a good thing as well. But we're just going to go over a few ideas, and hopefully as we're talking, you're going to be able to get new insights or some aha moments of your own, and you'll be able to apply them uniquely to your situation. So as I was putting together a little outline for this podcast, I was thinking there's a couple of beliefs or ideas that I think we want to build upon. First is that if we're going to invest in ourselves, we need to believe that we deserve the investment. And then second, we need to logistically make it happen. So I've kind of outlined a few ideas, and Eric...
And we're going to talk about them today.
Eric and I, we're learning how to podcast together in a way where I don't come with a full outline and I point to Eric and tell him when to talk.
You're on.
But we just want this to kind of feel more natural because, fact of the matter is Eric and I have spent a lot of time and money and energy investing in each other, in our family, in our personal development.
Well, I think it's an interesting distinction you make right there, because investing isn't just about money. When we hear the word invest or investment, we think financials, right? Or money, dollars, things like that. And it really has everything to do with our energy, our time. There's lots of ways we can invest. And I think that April's first point that she's brought up there, I'd like to go a little bit deeper on. Believing we deserve the investment. I don't think there's anybody on the planet who had said, well, I'm not worth investing in. I'm not worth investing in myself. And we can say that, but I guess it's a difference between what we say and what we really think and feel. because we could put it out there and believe, or we could put it out there and express that, yeah, I want to invest in myself. But I think there are a lot of emotions, a lot of things under the surface that maybe, I don't know, subvert our abilities or kind of hijack our abilities to be able to truly be able to invest in ourselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
I
that
agree.
might be something we unpack here for just a minute or two as we talk.
Well, and Eric's actually been really good at this, and he's encouraged me a lot, because when we first started working together formally, I didn't want to invest in myself. I didn't trust that I deserved a coach or online courses or time even
But
spent
if you were in
listening
a
to podcasts and
conversation
things
or
like
in some
that.
sort of a conference, they said, are you worth investment? Are you worth investing in? What would you have said?
Well, I think there's a little voice inside me that's saying, yes, of course.
Well, in all of us, not just you, me too, right?
Right. But I think there was a louder voice that said, oh, but you're probably not going to do anything worthwhile with it anyway. Or, oh, it's probably a waste of resources. Or those doubts that all of us have.
And that's the point I'm trying to bring up. All of us have, whatever that voice is saying or that feeling is saying, we need to identify it, because it's going to be different for almost everyone. What is it that's causing us not to want to invest in what is it that's stopping us from investing in ourselves? Even if we were asked point blank, do you believe you're worth investing in?
Right.
And people say, yeah, I want to grow.
Well, and for the purposes of today's podcast, we're going to assume that you do feel that you're worth an investment of time, energy, money, etc., because you're listening to this podcast. If you didn't feel that you had, purpose and something deeper inside, you would just be doing something else. You wouldn't be thinking
so we're going to
about
assume
this.
everyone listening to this is believing at their core they do want to be investing in themselves to grow and to progress. But just as kind of maybe a side thought over there, be thinking about, what is that internal dialogue? What is it for you that's causing you to maybe not choose to invest in yourself regularly or to maybe take those next steps?
And I'm just going to share a little story. I actually wrote this in a book I put together about my mom. It's called Thursdays with Zoe. And this was the story took place back in probably 2001. And Eric and I had just moved to our first apartment outside of college. He had his first real job, and we had a 1-year-old baby. And I was going through a time in my life that was really challenging, where I didn't feel like I was worth a whole lot, and I didn't feel like anyone cared about what I did or didn't do, and I didn't really feel like anyone expected anything of me. And if I could go back to that time, I would give myself a whole lot of different advice. But at that time, I really felt like I didn't matter in a lot of ways. And that wasn't because of anything Eric was doing or wasn't doing. It was just myself. And I'd gone from being a student and a wage earner and having a lot of external praise to now being a full-time mom. And it was a challenge for me. But I remember I was on the phone with my mom one time, and I said, yeah, I ran out of makeup. And when I was single, and my parents were kind of helping fund some things for me, I would go and buy some nice makeup. But then once we got married and I was budgeting, I was like, well, it doesn't really matter. I don't really need nice makeup. I can just kind of run to the grocery store and I can just get something simple and basic. And so as I was talking to my mom, I said, yeah, I think I need some makeup, and, I can just go kind of get something simple. Now, I want to pause for a moment because I'm really not a big makeup person, and I think simple makeup's fine. At this point, I don't really spend that much on makeup. It doesn't matter. But my mom could tell there was something in my voice. And it wasn't about the makeup itself. It was that I was basically telling her, I don't really matter anymore. Now that I'm home with a baby, it doesn't matter if I look nice or not. And my mom just said, April, I want you to get some of the best makeup. You don't have to go spend hundreds of dollars, but she said, you deserve to have the best makeup. And she, just the way she said it, knowing my situation and knowing me, it gave me just that little lift that I needed that day. And as I'm even telling the story, I have all these little things in my head, oh, this probably sounds so stupid, such a first world problem, not a big deal. But it was at that time and that moment where I needed someone to just believe that I was worth something. Anyway, as I wrote that story in the book and just shared how my mom believed in me and my desire to, look nice and feel good about myself. A friend of mine had been going through some challenges, and she actually was having some health issues. And Her husband was listening to the audio of this book, Thursdays with Zoe, that I had written. And my friend didn't know her husband was listening to it. But he came home one day and they were talking and she was saying, yeah, my back's hurting right now, but I could probably wait. I don't need to go see a doctor. Like, I'll be fine. And her husband said something like, I think you need to make an appointment right away. And then he smiled at her and he said, you deserve the very best makeup. Now, the makeup had nothing to do with the doctor appointment, the back issue, but when she looked at him and she thought, oh, you've been listening to the book too. And the idea was that he believed that she needed to invest in herself, in her health, in her well-being. And I don't think it needs to be like a male versus female thing. I think it's something that all of us need to invest in ourselves in our own ways. But she told me that story, and I just think it's so common for men and women to say, oh, I'm fine. I don't need a break. I don't need a doctor. I don't need to feel good about myself. I don't need to read a book. I can just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, and I think most humans kind of take that as a virtue to say, I can power through. I'm strong enough. I'm resilient. I can make that happen. And there's a great value in that, being able to weather through hard things. But it needs to be balanced, we would suggest, with being able to take care of yourself and to invest in yourself so that you don't burn out, so that you can continue to grow. April was sharing with me actually that she'd done some research about average U.S. employees receiving paid vacation. They've only taken about 54% of those days in the past 12 months that they had accrued or built up for them in a survey of over 2,000 workers. And it's interesting, I was actually on a little outing with my brothers for a birthday, and this subject actually came up, and they were talking about how many vacation hours or days they'd had stored up, right? And we actually were just talking about this. I didn't really think we'd be bringing this up in here, but it was interesting because they have way more days built up than they've used, and they're like, I need to figure out some way to. It's like, and I think there's an interesting phenomenon there because I was listening to both of my brothers talk in different fields that they work in, and realizing that most of us as humans will bank those days. And maybe there is some benefit to banking some so you could take a longer vacation, but we don't often think about consistent, continual investment or rejuvenation along the way. We'll kind of work really hard, power through, saving up for some big thing at the end. And that's great, but I think maybe there's a balance of the two where we invest along the way and then we also save up a little for some maybe bigger celebrations or bigger investments. But I don't know, it just struck me that I think a lot of us as humans hold off. We power through and think, okay, I'll get there eventually. But there's it's important to be consistent, and I think, and not waiting too long to keep reinvesting, to keep growing.
But I think that's a very American thing too, because I was at a conference talking with our friend who's Australian, and he said, why is it that Americans don't take holidays?
And I think Europeans are amazing at this as well.
Holidays, like a given. People don't store up their holidays. They go and they take them. And so I think that just recognizing that is a cultural thing and recognizing that we do all need to have those holidays, those retreats.
Yeah. And it could even be just a half day, a few hours, right? Yeah. It could be a half day.
You were out with your brothers just for a few hours yesterday.
Yeah, just have a little bit of time to celebrate a birthday, but just have some time to reconnect and just be out in nature and rejuvenate a little bit. And so it can be a very powerful thing. It doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be super substantial or expensive even in terms of time or money. Just some things that we are regularly doing. That's maybe less than consistent. Regularly doing to invest and improve ourselves.
Well, and I do want to throw in here just a little plug for my hotel nights. And I know not everyone maybe is in a position to do them right now, and you don't have to do them all the time. But occasionally I do a hotel night where Eric mans the house and takes care of everything here. I go on Priceline Express deals. I find a simple hotel within, a mile or two of our house, and I just go stay overnight, and I have time to think, to just relax, to take a little break. Because since we are independently employed, we don't have specific days of the year that we're assigned to take as vacation. And so I really don't take very many vacations.
We don't have vacation days or hours we store up. It's like we don't get any.
And we're not necessarily great at just planning a lot of vacations.
We've actually become quite horrible in the last couple of years.
We don't do very many vacations, so I would like to. But just taking an occasional night at a hotel locally, it's not expensive. It's amazing for me.
And I think that's for April, that's been a huge benefit. And again, you can find, if that's something that you're interested in, you can find killer deals like Monday through Wednesday, midweek, local, nice, nothing fancy, but just a nice, comfortable, clean hotel. If you like 18 to 24 hours of solitude. For April, that's
I'm an introvert.
part of her love language, right? And what I would just suggest is, as you're listening to this, thinking about it, just maybe define or describe for yourself what would a little bit of rejuvenation or reinvestment look like for you.
Yeah.
If it could be 6 or 12 hours, what would you love to spend that time doing? You know, whatever that time window is, what you do and how you do it. But and again, we're just posing that question so that you begin to think and let your mind kind of explore the possibilities there. I don't know that for most people it would be a hotel night.
Yeah, for you it's not, but time spending with your brothers, that was great.
About a year ago, before coronavirus took over a lot of things, I'd actually go for about 2 hours every Wednesday to a local community college pottery class.
Yeah.
And I would sit around the wheel and just like some of my classmates there, just kind of be fun to talk.
He's really good too.
And I'm not that great. But it was just really relaxing to kind of learn a new skill and to be able to have the clay just circling in your hands as you're shaping things. And yeah, you'll make mistakes, things will fall apart, or you rework stuff, you can salvage. It was just, there were so many analogies, and it was just a time for my mind to just decompress and just relax. And so that right there wasn't expensive, didn't take a lot of time. I mean, literally it was on a lunch break, that same window of time. I think it was like from 12 to 2.
Yeah.
So I'd go grab a quick bite to eat, hit the class, and just have fun. So that reinvestment or investing in yourself can look like a lot of different things, whatever it may look like for you. We just encourage you to give some thought and pursue it.
And I always get a little smile on my face and I look at the calendar and see that Eric had pottery that day. It's just, it's super cute.
I was doing it for the cuteness factor. That was my whole drive for doing it.
On our show notes page, I'm going to include a link to an article I found on Inc.com. And it was about how some of the most successful people in the world make reading a huge priority. So I want to shift gears a little bit into that. And we have a couple of podcasts on LearnDoBecome Radio about like how to make time to read and what to do with the things that you read. So we'll link to those in the show notes as well. But some of the people who are listed here were Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Now, I notice these are all men. And so
apparently women don't read, according to April.
That's who was listed in the article. But I think that this is absolutely something for men and women and people from
equally applicable,
all backgrounds. But they said Warren Buffett reads about 600 to 1,000 pages a day. At least that's how much he did read when he was first starting out as an investor.
And Bill Gates, actually, whenever he goes on vacation, he takes bags of books. Yeah. He'll just sit down and probably speed reading, skimming a lot of stuff, but he'll move through 30, 40 books on a vacation.
Yeah.
And it's just that consuming new knowledge, new information, new insights, just having an expanded view of the world around us.
Yes, and as for me, as a wife, a mother, a business owner, I know it's not easy to make a ton of time to read, but one of the people who inspired me the most, her name's Lucretia Mott, and she lived from 1793 to 1880. She's famous for her writing and speaking abilities, but particularly as an abolitionist, a feminist, and a reformer. So she's called like the heart of the women's suffrage movement. So you hear about Susan B. Anthony all the time, but Lucretia Mott was like right there alongside her.
Well, there were correspondents, right? A lot of the things, there was like a little circle of great
Elizabeth
women.
Cady Stanton, Lucretia Mott.
And each of them had different roles in that, but this Lucretia Mott, she was a reader and a writer, and she would share these great ideas that maybe some of the ones who had the flexibility to be out in the public and speaking were sourced and really strengthened by her and her research and reading efforts.
But I remember as I was reading about her life, she told the story how she would place open books around her house, and then she would read even when her hands were full caring for children or doing housework. So instead of doing things like embroidering pillowcases, which I guess at the time was the thing to do.
Was the thing.
She would be, fixing food or doing dishes or doing something, but she had a book open. And so she'd be reading while she did that.
Well, maybe a corollary for all of us, not just women, but men, is like we have an ability to have a smartphone or a tablet, and we can maybe have it open to a reader, right? Wherever we consume
audiobooks
books.
now?
Well,
she would have loved audiobooks. I'm sorry.
She would have. But I mean, but I'm saying like just being able to read or listen to the things being read versus when we use our time for, like surfing the web, social media, things like that.
Yeah.
As we're caring for our lives, our children, our households, maybe some of the work we do if there's a downtime, being able to flip open, how easy would it be, very similarly to how she left books open, just to click open an app and either listen to or read a favorite book or two that would be able to expand, again, that worldview.
Yeah, and you can carry a book with you. My dad always had a book he was carrying with him. He loved biographies and history books. And I even had a friend who right above her kitchen sink, she had this book holder where you could open a book and then stick it into it and it would keep the pages open. So she could read or she could memorize songs or things like that. Anyway, I thought it was pretty amazing. So just that idea that Lucretia Mott was, even when her hands were full, she was reading. It just inspired me to think, you know what? If I want to be able to improve my knowledge, if I want to be able to improve the impact I can have in my family and in the world around me, getting more knowledge and investing in my mind, that's essential.
Yeah,
and so
we really believe that every one of us has a unique mission and that has the potential to do so much good. And I know that might sound a little cliche, but it's true. Every one of us is unique, and you have a very powerful ability within you, abilities. And so strengthening our minds, our bodies, our spirits, it's not optional. We need to have, yes, a balance there. Greg McKeown in Essentialism talks about protecting the asset. And you as an individual are the asset, right? The core of who you are, your spirit, your mind, your body, all fused together, who you are the asset. And so if you're feeling spread too thin or like you have nothing to give, we encourage you to keep listening as we talk about like the logistics of what it means to invest in yourself.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what Eric has done for me, helping me protect the asset, because I can write about these things and I can talk about them and I believe them, but Eric often tells me, April, you are so bad at taking care of yourself.
In a loving, encouraging way.
Well, he calls me out on it because he wants me to get enough sleep. He wants me not to put myself in the middle of everything. She tends to spread herself too thin. Maybe I don't spread myself thin enough. Judging from my midsection, I'm not spread thin enough. But we honestly, we love her, and she wants to be invested in a lot of things in a lot of places. And so she will, run to every need. And that's a great quality. But again, it's that careful balance, right? It's protecting the asset while you are investing in others and loving them. And it is. It's a challenging but an important balance to learn to strike. And I think as we close up this section about believing you're worth the investment, I don't know what it is, but I think I have some internal belief that protecting the asset, if I think of myself as the asset, that I'm egotistical.
Or it's selfish.
Right. Like, oh, who am I to think I'm an asset? Like that. I think that's the essential belief that I need to get rid of, because it's true. I'm so much happier when I take time to breathe and exercise.
Well, I think we're able to better serve others when we've invested in ourselves. We've replenished a little bit, right? When you come home from one of these getaways, or if you've had a little bit of time to think in the morning and stuff, your day or the experiences you're having thereafter, so much better. I think that's true for all of us.
Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate how Eric has always encouraged me to do that. But I know not everyone has a spouse who's watching out for them and who says, please stop spreading yourself so thin. I understand that. And so if you don't have someone else in your life who's telling you, hey, take care of yourself, don't try to be all things to all people, I hope that you'll take this podcast as kind of permission or encouragement to do so.
Not a permission, but like an invitation, and a loving invitation, a loving encouragement.
Yeah, that's
good. To just step back and have that dialogue, at least with yourself, and if possible, with a spouse, a partner, a significant other, whoever that might be in your life that could help support and encourage you in that effort, because it's so important. And
I think the people you want to be closest to in your life are the people who genuinely care about your well-being. That's how Eric and I want to be around each other, because we know we genuinely care about one another. We want to build a family where we all genuinely care. Same with our team, same with our community. Because when you're around great people who aren't just in it for themselves, but who want you to thrive alongside them, that just brings a power and an influence to your life that is going to have lasting effects in so many areas. So.
Amen, sister.
Okay, let's work on the logistics now.
So the first was the believing that you truly are worth the investment.
Check.
Now we're going to move over to the second part and final part of our podcast, the logistics. How do you make it happen?
How do we invest in ourselves? So I want to just start out by briefly mentioning Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants. If you've read First Things First, is this in 7 Habits too?
It is also in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
All the time, but there's these 4 quadrants, and it's about urgent versus importance. So Quadrant One, it's the urgent and important, like your kitchen's on fire, or there's a really urgent phone call. You've got to run somewhere, or, you're late for something, or a bill that's due tomorrow, right?
So those generally do need to get fielded. You need to be pretty timely about them. Mm-hmm. So you take care of those.
But you can minimize how many of those things happen by how you architect your life, right? Okay, Quadrant Two is like the sweet spot.
Quadrant Two is the important one.
That's important but not urgent. So
it's
this
the stuff
is
that matters,
what we're talking about today.
Is not clamoring for your attention, is not banging down the door, but it's the thing. It's a huge part of the investment category, right? It's exercise, it's reading, it's learning, it's developing, it's vocation, it's planning, like figuring out how you want to improve yourself and the things you do in the world around you. And it's always the things I think we categorize with, I really want to do that. I'll get to it really soon.
Yeah.
Right? It's always with that little subclause. I'll get on that tomorrow. Pretty soon I'll make that happen. And I worry that, and this is true in my life as well, there are a lot of projects that we want to get to, things that we're excited to kind of be involved in. And we're afraid that, if we let things go too long, our life could end and we could die with the music in us. And I think that's why we kind of classify this Quadrant 2 stuff as the music, some of the greatness, the potential, that really powerful potential we have within us that needs to be realized. So how do we make that more of a priority? Not make it urgent, but make it a priority. And this is where, Greg McKeown will talk a lot about essentialism. Yeah. How do we essentialize and move these things to more of a first position in our lives?
Well, recording this podcast for us is Quadrant 2. It's not urgent, but as we're talking about not wanting to die with the music in us, being able to record, even if it's just for our own children who listen someday, or our grandchildren, we want to be able to record.
If you're listening to this, shape up. Be good. Do the right things.
Okay, Quadrant 3 is the interruptions, distractions. They're not important, but they are urgent. So this is where people are just popping in, demanding your attention. A lot of times if you have your notifications set on for your phone, that's Quadrant 3 because they keep interrupting you.
As April looked at me as we started this podcast, and I had a couple of them come up, and it's like, I didn't set
Put your phone on silent.
Yes. So it's those kind of things. And these are the ones that truly can be, we can minimize Quadrant 1 a little. We can really minimize Quadrant 3. Yeah. It's stuff that truly isn't important. Like if it didn't get handled or our attention, nothing bad or, is going to happen. Nothing's going to fall off the rails. And so I think we really want to study what's happening in Q3 and then this Q4, which is not important, not urgent. This is the stuff that's just a waste of time. It could be fully eliminated if we chose to. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, it's where we default to because we don't want to go to the Q2 stuff because Q2 takes energy, effort. Like it's a little challenging.
Boundary setting. I mean, people pleasers live in Quadrant 3. Everyone's going to interrupt you. They're going to say, my priority is more important than your priority.
You're like, yes, because I love you. Everything you think I need to do, I'll go do. So Q3 is for the people pleasers, I guess.
And the procrastinators who just want to scroll social media.
Well, Q4 and Q3 are procrastinators, the people. But again, we are guilty of having a handful of these things as well. But Q4, some of the stuff is the trivial, the busy work, the time wasters, things that just really aren't going to contribute to much of anything in our lives.
Not urgent and not important.
And they're hard. I mean, we enjoy watching some shows. I'm more of a binge watcher than April is, but I think, I need to kind of step back and say, okay, watching 1, maybe 2 shows during a day. And hey, if you're going to watch that second show, you better be on an elliptical or treadmill while you're watching that one, mister. Hard boundaries to set for yourself, but it's an ability to step back and say, okay, how and where are we using our time, and are we using it as effectively as we want? We get to choose how that time is used. And again, we talk about investment. A lot of people will, like we talked about earlier, think it's a monetary thing. I think the most scarce resources we have to invest are our time and our energy. Mm-hmm. Money can be renewable. Time and often energy or health isn't renewable.
Yeah.
It is a very finite, very, what's the word the economists use? A finite and a... Oh, now I just lost the word.
You gotta look it up.
It's going to drive me crazy now. I don't want to stop the recording, but it's an asset that cannot be replenished, right? It's a non-replenishable asset. It's not the right word I'm looking for, but it describes it, I guess, well enough. And so we want to be careful how we use that time, energy, and yes, our money, but using it in ways that we invest it in the things that we truly are valuing most, right? And we'll talk about this in a second, but you can tell exactly where people what people value by looking at where their time and their money goes, their calendar, their checkbooks. Yeah. We'll dive into that in a little bit more in just a second.
Well, and just one final image is just that whole concept of putting the big rocks in first. So we have a little picture that we'll put on the show notes page. But Eric and I actually opened up this old video from, what was it, the 1980s of Stephen Covey doing that big rocks.
It's an amazing seminar. He taught to a bunch of business leaders. And he calls this great volunteer out of the audience to help him kind of work through an object lesson. And he's encouraging her. He has these big rocks labeled with the most important elements of our lives.
Like family,
Some
opportunity.
Different family things, opportunities, a vacation, getting into better shape. All kinds of bigger things that are important to us. And then he had a bunch of pebbles and a bunch of sand that represented a lot of the Q3 and the Q4 stuff. Yeah. Wasn't quite as essential. And so he actually pours, and I don't know how much we want to give away of the...
Watch the video, and watch it with your family if you have a family living with you, because... You're
linking the video?
Yeah. Okay. It was really fun, and we watched it with our boys.
It's a great instruction about really how we can and in what order we put things into our lives.
Right.
To get the best or the most optimal results, right? And so maybe you watch that video. We don't want to give too much of it away, but it's totally worth the watch.
Well, but spoiler alert, when you put the most important things in first, you make room for everything else.
Why would you ruin it like that?
I think it's...
When you put the most important things in your life, the rest of the things that matter will be there or fall out of your life.
But the thing is, we've seen this happen in our lives over and over and over again. Eric and I, for a few months, I was sick for the end of last year and spent a lot of time in bed. We kind of stopped doing our planning sessions because we couldn't plan anything. It was like, when's April going to be sick? I don't know. We didn't know. And so we didn't plan very well. And I feel like a lot of our life was just little pebbles. We were just kind of going day to day, just trying to maintain. But whenever we actually sit down and we put in the big rocks, we schedule, it's pretty amazing how everything else just kind of fits.
Well, I guess a side idea, I don't think everything else fits. I think what's interesting is
things fit?
the important point I'd make is there is never enough time to do everything. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we mistakenly or maybe foolishly think there is. We're going to fit everything into our lives, our days, somewhere, somehow. Maybe not today, maybe it'll be tomorrow. But I think this is a real exercise, and it's hard probably for human beings. I know it's hard for me to realize not everything that we hope to or desire to do will get done. I think I saw you writing something else about how, and maybe it's in what we'll record later, the ability to get to every project you've ever conceived of. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like there are going to be a lot of projects you won't do, but knowing what all the projects are, what all the ideas and possibilities are out there, you pick the most important ones and you work on those first. And then however far and however deep into that over a lifetime you can get, then that's what you did.
Yeah.
But how much better is it to make sure you're working on as much of these Q2 important but maybe not urgent as you can, right? Yes, you still need to take care of the Q1s, urgence and importance, but then block out enough time, enough energy, enough resource of yourself to really be able to focus in on getting many of these Q2 type projects or activities or efforts, those influences that you want to have into your life. Because, and I don't mean to sound contrary here, but I don't think it's possible for us to get everything in.
Yeah, it's true. Bucket. That video will kind of show you it is.
And it does. But I mean, if we look careful at the counter, you're going to see some sand on the table.
Yeah.
And you'll probably see a few pebbles that didn't make it in. And you know what? Nobody noticed now that those pebbles and sand aren't there because they aren't important. Mm-hmm. But the things that were important, as you look at this video and you watch, how kind of insights and some kind of key takeaways are presented there, I hope you have your own experiences realizing, this is what I would value and this is how I need to fit it into my life. Because for every one of us, it's going to be different how we accommodate and make some adjustments to get the things, first of all, identifying what it is we value most, and then second, how do we get it into our lives, that logistical part.
Which reminds me of this woman who posted in our Step Mastery Facebook group the other day, and she's been doing our STEP program, that's Steps to Everyday Productivity. It's our program here at LearnDoBecome. And she said, okay, I've been doing the program for a while, and the other day we had a free day. And normally I would never have done something fun. I would have just felt like I had so much housework and so much to do at home that I just would have stayed home the whole day and done stuff. But she said, but because I've been learning how to get things organized, I knew I could take some time and I went cross-country skiing with my kids. And she said it was a great day. Then we got home and she was doing some other projects. She's going to work on taxes a little bit that night. But she said, I'm tired, but I genuinely feel like I'm living my best life. And I was like, I got teary-eyed. I'm like, this is amazing, because I love that. Like, yes, we might still be tired, when you put energy into your family, or you put energy into cross-country skiing, or whatever it is that you're having fun doing, and you're also balancing other work. Yes, you're going to be using your energy and being tired. But I love that concept, because that's what essentialism is all about. It's not about not doing anything. It's about living a full life, but living it purposefully.
Yeah, it's going to be a fulfilled tired. You're going to go to bed content. We use this phrase quite a bit at LearnDoBecome. We want to encourage and help people be able to wake up excited for their day, excited for the work and the effort they're going to be putting in, the investments they're going to make in the things they value. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's work, it's energy. It will tire you out a little bit. But when you go to bed content. You go to bed with a very satisfied tired.
Yeah. Because
you've made an impact that's meaningful that day.
So kind of our closing idea, or our parting challenge, is for you to create space in your budget and in your schedule for reading and learning. So we're just going to talk about that a little bit right now. And then, because we've talked about this with the belief and the logistics. So, okay, we want to invest in ourselves. We're going to do it. We're going to put big rocks in first, all that. But now let's just talk about this kind of key idea.
Yeah, well, I think it's that phrase, right? We mentioned a little bit earlier in the podcast. But if you really want to understand where somebody's values lies and where they're investing, take a look at two simple things. People have a hard time, I think, articulating what their values are. Just open up your calendar and open up your checkbook or your bank register, your credit card statement, to see where your money and where your time is going, because we spend those resources on the things that we value. And one little side kind of comment I'll make here is, as we're talking about the invest in Arise, investing in yourself truly is very important. And as I've worked with people over the years, a lot of people, maybe help them establish their personal or their family kind of budgets. And it's interesting because in only one of probably 150, 200 budgets I've reviewed or just kind of helped out with people, I have only seen in one case someone have a budget category of like personal or family investment. Not financial investment like a stock market or other kind of financial instruments. It was that personal development line item, personal or family development. And the one person I was just really impressed, because April and I have that in ours, and we've had it probably since very early on in our marriage. And I would just encourage you, as you have a budget, whether it's written in formal or not, to have a category on it or in your mind about personal and family, development. And it might just be $5 a month. It could be 10, it could be 50. But when you allocate a little bit of that money, we're going to talk a little bit here about where that money could go, because there's a lot of great free resources, but just to have it conceptually and truly identified in your mind that this is something that I do on a consistent, regular basis. I invest in myself, I invest some time, and I invest some money in things that are going to help me grow forward. It can really be powerful and life-changing.
So we're just going to go through a few examples of your calendar and your checkbook. Maybe some ways you could know you were investing in yourself. So for the calendar one, I just took just the reading part we talked about. If you just wanted to read more, then in your calendar, you could create time at the library. You could create time to go through some online courses that may have some, reading components, learning components. You could have time each day to read or listen to books or podcasts. You could create this time to attend these conferences. So this reading and learning, if you really want to invest in your mind, you can go to your calendar and put these types of things in. That, I would say, was probably the number one thing that Eric and I did early in our marriage and early in building LearnDoBecome that helped us to get results. And then checkbook, I just put a few ideas. Do you want to share?
Go ahead.
Okay, so budget for online courses. This is something Eric encouraged us to do because I wasn't going to spend any money on online courses. And Eric was all for it. And I'm so glad we did. Budgeting for books, like Amazon, you get great books, or your local bookstore. We do an audiobook subscription, which I adore. We also do a great courses subscription. That's been super fun. And then like budgeting for paid conferences, mentorship groups.
And those audiobooks or course subscriptions, they're not that expensive. I mean, it might be what?
Like $12.50 a month or something like
that. $10 or $12.50 or maybe $15 a month. But like with an audiobook, you get an entire book you get to read it'll be read to you. Or with great courses, you get like access to so many courses for what, $12.50 a month?
Yeah, that's how much I'm paying right now.
If there's anything, I mean, again, pick what you want, but just find something that you enjoy, that it's going to build and develop you. And yes, I mean, when we invest in something, we're looking for a return on that investment. And I would suggest that, yes, investing in these things will always have an investment. It won't always be monetary, but most often it will be. Your ability, your capacities, your talents will increase. Your thinking will enlarge. It's going to make you more able to do the things that you need to do as you bring in, the finances you need to support your family and life. But the investment personally and how you grow and how you feel about yourself is equally, if not more important there.
Because I think there's a subconscious message that you send to yourself when you actually purchase that book or that course, or you set aside time in your schedule to work on something. You're subconsciously saying, I am worth this investment and I'm going to put my best into this. And I know a lot of people who are like, well, I buy courses, I never use them. Well, then that's where we need to get the calendar kind of tied in with the money, because it's great, but it's like buying a bunch of gym equipment and never using it. It's not going to change anything.
The stuff. When do you use it? I don't.
Well, yeah, okay. We won't go into all that. But the thing is that results do come. And the way it's worked for us is that when we invest in these books, courses, conferences, it directly impacts our mood, our family, our goals, our income, all these things that we wanted for our lives. We've been able to move forward steadily every day, working and, learning from our mistakes and being able to gain experience. And also, we do try to balance that spiritual and secular learning. For me, I just try to learn at a pace that I can actually apply what I'm learning as I'm learning it. And
keep in mind, everyone's going to learn or apply at a different rate. And so it's not a competition with anyone else. And we'll probably come back to this over and over again at LearnDoBecome, because there's no competition with others around us, to our side, on social media, in our families, whatever it may be. I think we firmly believe that the only competition that we really have is with ourselves, who we are and who we're working to become, if that makes sense. So we're striving to become a little bit better today than we were yesterday, and tomorrow a little bit better than we are today. And I'm trying to quickly find a great quote from Maya Angelou.
All right, well, while you're looking for that, then I'll just share a final thought. I believe that as we're investing in ourselves, even if it's just a library card or free podcast online, I think that we're showing our higher power, and we say God, that you take your mission seriously. And I believe also we're going to be led to the people who we need to teach us. There are so many opportunities now. Okay, did you find your quote?
Absolutely. Maya Angelou. Love this quote. And thanks to the power of Evernote, I found it quickly.
Good.
But this is a great quote. I would just encourage to kind of step away from feeling like we've got to compete with everyone around us. We have to move at a certain rate or speed or we're not being successful. She said simply, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And so it's that process of progressive growth, adding upon things day by day. And some days you may not feel like investing or doing anything. And that's fine. That's having a little bit of downtime or not even doing something.
Binge watching.
I
did that the other day.
Totally acceptable in the human condition. But we do the best we're capable of, right? And we then strive to do or become a little bit better the next day. And when we know better, as we learn things, as we are investing in ourselves, we'll come across great ideas, great concepts, great inspiration. And then we can adopt that into our lives. And that's the process of learning, doing, and becoming what we're meant to be.
Hopefully, as you've been listening, that little light or that little excitement inside of you has started to grow. I'm hopeful that you're believing a little more in yourself now and in your worth as far as the importance in investing in yourself. I hope that you're starting to see that a little bit more clearly and your vision is expanding a little bit more. Because when you start to hear ideas and you see other people who are applying it and getting results, it starts to make life more exciting, where you do wake up excited because you think, oh, okay, I'm going to work on this book, or I'm going to take this course, or I'm going to, watch this YouTube video today, or I'm going to excel in this one little area today, or whatever it is. But I want you to see that you're not only worth the investment, but that you're going to get results from those investments. And we're just thrilled you're here with us at LearnDoBecome. So we kind of leave you a little challenge. What do you want to say?
Did you ask the question already?
I didn't. Do you want to ask
it? So we're going to leave you not with a challenge. So we're going to kind of shift that up.
Okay.
We're going to leave you with a question and an
invitation.
Because, I don't know, challenges just feel like we're going to throw down this challenge and see if you can do it. Versus an invitation.
Invitation's fine.
And I don't mean to sound dull.
It's all good.
I just love the word invitation. So the questions we have for you just to think about through the days, maybe go about your activities. How do you currently invest in yourself? In what ways are you already investing and doing some of this? I'm sure you are. identify those and give yourself credit for that. How do you currently invest in yourself? And then the other question is, what do you plan to do in the future, starting now, to make a serious investment? And that the invitation that would go along with this is just think, and we want to encourage you to keep this simple, an invitation that you could act on and follow through and make happen. Think about your current investment strategy and yourself, and just identify one thing, one simple thing that you could do to take it to your next level, however you define that. We just want to encourage everyone that's part of our community here to be thoughtful and look for the ways that they want to improve themselves, where they see the opportunity and the benefits of growing for themselves, for those around them that they love. So just think about today a little bit. What's one thing that you could simply do to take things to your next level?
Love it. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for being here with me and Eric today. I've got to tell you, I so much prefer just being able to record with him than being all by myself. So I hope that you had fun listening to the two of us. And we recognize we are still learning how to podcast together. You should see all the conversations that go on behind the scenes. But we hope that these ideas lifted you today. We're so happy you're here with us. And if you're excited about Arise, and if you're thinking, well, I want to know more, we actually put together a personal assessment, and you can find it at LearnDoBecome.com/Arise. It's geared to help you look at 6 areas of your life and figure out how you're feeling about things and where you may want to make some improvements. So again, LearnDoBecome.com/Arise. Also, the show notes page, you can find all of our podcasts on our website, and you can just go to LearnDoBecome.com/radio, and that will take you to all the show notes pages. And you can find that connect page as well, where you can keep in touch with us. We want you to be part of the Learn to Become community. We want you immersed. We want you being able to benefit from your fellow community members in that free Facebook group, and we want to be able to encourage you and support you and help you. We love you and appreciate you and are so grateful you're part of this. So thanks. Have an amazing day. We'll see you soon at LearnDoBecome.com.